right, everybody, welcome. I'm very excited today because I have the honor of inviting our guest lecturer, Nicolas Schipper.
There we go. Good. Okay, come on.
Yeah, come on, take stage.
So now that everyone's settled more or less, I just wanted to say how much of an honor it is for me to get to talk to you right now, Nick.
Thank you very much.
The first time I saw Heilung was back at Big R's Club about a year and a half ago, and I was completely mesmerized watching you during Alpha here High Tea. Just the way you just wail on the drum that's up against the back wall, just completely mesmerizing. Yeah. And then last night, you guys again blew everyone away. So it's always a once in a while experience to see Heilung play. So thank you for giving that for all of us.
No, thank you very much.
Yep.
It's, a lot of people ask me where that comes from. To be honest, sometimes I see a video and I'm like, oh, okay. It's like when I'm there, I don't know what really takes over, but there's something, the connection with the drums, and then all what is happening between all of us together is in terms of like very powerful exchange of energies or something. I don't know.
Yeah, powerful is the way to put it. That was my wife's first time seeing you guys last night, and she told me halfway through the show, I can't stop watching the guy in the back right, because you just look like you're having so much fun up on that stage.
It's a lot of feelings. Sometimes you connect much more. What I say constantly is sometimes it's so, we have a click in the ears.
Yeah.
So we actually stay we stay all on a same path of rhythm. And that sometimes is the most difficult part, at least for me, to never really let go your head. And it's like, oh shit, wait, I have to stay kind of in this space.
Yeah.
That's challenging sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, and just for anyone in the audience who doesn't know, the click is just like a metronome that you keep in your ear for like very heavily orchestrated music that has a lot of parts that have to be together.
It's basically, you hear like, so if you are doing something, all of you are in the same beat.
Especially when sometimes you guys are like 30 yards away from each other on the stage. It helps.
Yeah. Yes. I have to be honest, I prefer or we all do prefer the kind of smaller stages.
Yep.
You feel like, oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You don't lose each other in the fog.
No, sometimes it's like really massive, and we're like, I didn't saw you last night. Where were you? Like, yeah, I was in the other corner. That's like, okay.
If you say so, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it happens.
Awesome. So Nick, I think a great place to start would be just to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about yourself, just where you come from, where you live now. We'll get more into like your actual background as a musician, but if you just want to say a little bit more about yourself before we get into your life and your story.
Yeah, we're talking a little bit with Matthias. I'm actually born and raised in Ecuador, but that's the only thing that I have from there.
Okay.
Because most of my family is actually from Chile.
Okay.
Whereas a big connection also to a European side. So all kind of the things that I've been learning, I studied also music in Ecuador. I studied jazz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, hell yeah. That's awesome.
Then actually my family moved to Chile. I stayed there. It was a very strong decision that a lot of things influenced it there to my whole path of my life, because I actually lost my stepfather there in that transition, because I made the decision of staying in music. Then actually my family with my sister and brother, they moved back to Ecuador. My mom is from Chile, my grandpa born in England, married to a Swiss-French person, so basically a citizen of the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what we were actually also talking now in the car with Matthias, that it's been a huge blend of cultures and things behind this thing of authentication of where do you actually come from.
Yep.
What is what you're putting out. Being in Ecuador, I was the Chilean Viking guy. I was in Chile, I was the Peruvian of the way that I was talking, that it was not really the Chilean accent. Then being in Germany, I was like, what is this guy? Now I live in Denmark. So all these things is it's quite a journey of realizing who you actually are. And I end up always at the same. We all come from the same source.
Yep.
And we are all standing in the same planet. And when the society puts flags, binaries, and this is what you have to be, there is where it starts these conflict things.
Yep.
So yeah, kind of a little bit. I go a lot to different areas, so you just stop me when I'm talking about things that I shouldn't. But that's kind of a little bit of the background that I have. That is basically from all over. Very also the French side, then some German, the British, the Scottish. I actually play the Scottish bagpipes also.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Dude,
that was
awesome.
one of the things that at one point it just appeared because I was in this thing of trying to figure out who I am. And I always been into this traditional instrument. Okay, the weird instruments, but it's actually the traditional instruments.
Right.
So I've been always digging into have the most weird instruments. So I've been the only piper from Ecuador that at the same time was very fucked up. It's like tried to learn, and everyone has a guitar at home, but not really a bagpipe. So it was quite a mission. But everything started because of the roots of my grandpa.
Oh yeah.
Trying to figure out, there was actually somebody, I love the sound, and all the history behind it. That is actually it was a weapon at one point.
Yeah.
So it's just all
to
those
some people
things.
it still is.
Yeah. So it's a lot of roots and different backgrounds. And then to ending it up to kind of where I've been now is basically using where I grew up. That's kind of my most inspiration, where I try to talk about it, and the instruments that I use, it comes from the highlands where I was born.
Awesome. Yeah, I love what you just, like how you sort of brought us through just how multi-dimensional your upbringing was, because I have some of my music appreciation students, I think are in the room right now, and I just last week taught them, I had to fit it all into one lecture with South American music in general. And my favorite, right, all into an hour and a half. And it's always just funny, even in an hour and a half, right? Like my students are always like blown away by just, we have the way that South America is presented to us in the media, right? And then it's always just so much more multifaceted and multidimensional than average like North Americans are led to believe. Yeah. And I think that your story you just told us is a really great illustration of just like how multifaceted that world is. So
yeah, it's a lot going on. So in music, you have just the way of using the percussion sets that I have now is the traditional bombo from the Andes.
Oh yeah.
Kind of made for me with different things, with two amazing drum builders from Ecuador. I also build drums, but for me I've been learning from them. But at the same time, this thing of showing actually where I was born. Yep. So this thing of, Nordic, I play with a Nordic project, Trali. I'm actually using everything where I come from. I'm not a Viking. I come from South America. Yeah. So it's like, that's what I try to represent without taking or anything that it doesn't belong to me. Like all this crazy thing happening with cultural appropriation and things. That is, for me, is not really taking something, is actually respecting what it is. And that's why I'm trying to talk out loud with my set, my instruments, my workshops, whatever.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, especially because my official title is just like that really complicated word. That I'm an ethnomusicologist. It just means that we study music from all around the world, like what you would call world music. And the topic of cultural appropriation is just always over top of whatever we're talking about. You just learn it's so everyone plants their flag in the sand. And so I always prefer to hear the opinions of like not ethnomusicologists on that stuff.
The thing is, it's quite difficult. I believe music is for everyone.
Yep.
So it's like when we say we were talking about this thing of nationalities, I see it's the same. If you have the guitar came from the Spanish people, but you have indigenous people using it. The cajon peruano was an instrument that it came from slaves that they didn't have instruments. The birimbao, the same. They just wanted to make music and then using it in different cultures. Now you have actually the cajon peruano. They use it a lot in Spain also, that they have their own version of it. So it's like the djembe, so that comes from Africa, but it's like feel it's kind of the new guitar instrument that
everywhere.
everybody has. It's the drum that everybody kind of has.
It's a djembe and a ukulele. That's in like
For
every
example.
college student dorm, right?
Kind of, I don't know, but it is kind of like that, you know. So it's like, what is wrong, what is right? For me, is actually honoring the respect of learn what you're using and where it comes from, and then if somebody asks you, actually learn and pass it forward. That's what I do. So I'm here because I want to. I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing what I've been learning in my path, and I fought in different things, and there are some things that I feel that it should be passed forward. Everybody, if you put all your learnings into a pocket, I think that's very selfish.
I agree.
And that's what I mean. It's the same with an instrument. So if you're grabbing an instrument, you know actually where the ukulele comes from. Actually, you should try it. It is a great instrument. They play like this. Maybe you play in another way because it sounds cool, but maybe the traditional way is this.
Yeah.
I don't know the connection. What is the history behind? I find it. I don't know anything. So I'm sitting with him.
No.
So it's kind of a thing like just trying to figure out a little bit of the roots of where we are. And that you can apply to everything. It's not just the instrument that you have sitting at home.
That's beautifully put, man. I mean, if we had no time limit, I would sit here and just talk to you about this for hours, right? So
I'm staying 2 more days.
No. This is only the first installment. Come back tomorrow. No, so I was requested to latch on to the bagpipe thing. I was told that there's a great story around the bagpipe with you, unless that was what you just told, just like picking it up.
Probably was what it was.
Okay. I just had some friends making sure I remembered to ask you about your bagpipe story.
There's a lot. Being the only piper, I ended up being the piper that made the entrances for the ambassador of the UK in Ecuador. It's actually the reason how I ended up in Denmark also, because he ended up late in one meeting. There was a whiskey sponsorship in that meeting, and it was like, yeah, just taste this one. And okay, great. And then he run in and was like, okay, now it's time that you should walk in, play the pipes. Then he left, and then I was like, okay, I cannot just go home now. Right. Then I went to this Irish pub where I always played, because I was the only piper again in an Irish pub. So they always hired me there, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go down there and have a pint and maybe see. I love to play foosball or this table thing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it a lot of times. It was like, let's see what's going on down there. And there is where I met actually my partner, mother
beautiful.
of my daughter. I come in there with a kill, the pipe, and the other things we're going to say. But then I saw her sitting down there in the bar. I was like, I'm going to marry that woman one day. And that's how I ended up in Denmark.
That is a beautiful story.
Maybe she should tell the other side.
Right, we're getting one perspective, one person.
Yeah, you always have to hear both sides. But it's kind of like that. She didn't really want me the first 3 weeks. But yeah, it's actually, again, this thing with connecting with the instrument, ending up just believe in what you're doing and don't try to put yourself in a box and just let things roll. When you let loose of things, there is space for other things to come in.
Yep, exactly.
So I had the mission to get home, and then I ended up finding the partner of my life. Because I just wanted to, I don't know what. Yeah. So if that was the story, I don't know. That's kind of a personal thing with the pipes.
I think, well, you can blame Matthias for that. He was the one to make sure. So,
I told him that I shouldn't tell that one, but
but at least to me, it sounds like a great segue into how you got to Denmark.
Yeah, the thing is, Cecilia, my partner, she was volunteering in Ecuador, and I already had one-way ticket to Europe because I was like, I have a European passport, so I was like, I have friends that would die to actually have the opportunity to go to Ecuador. I reached a point in Ecuador. I was teaching at the university some music stuff. I was working at radio. I was everything that had to do with music to make a living. I was kind of doing it. It was like, okay, let's buy a one-way ticket. And I had it actually to Germany. And there in between, I met Sile, and then we moved to Denmark. And since then, it's been 6 years that I'm living there. And then that's how I kind of came into Heilung. It was okay. It is actually funny because I had already a project in Ecuador that is actually called Celtic Trip, that actually still rolling. I'm officially out of it. But that was actually, I started there already digging into this thing of what is traditions and what is music and what to do. So what we were blending there is traditional music from Ecuador with actually some Celtic traditions. So it was quite interesting. It's been rolling pretty well, and it's a very traditional rhythm from the highlands of Ecuador. And I remember when I told them we have to make a difference if we want to do something with this project. It was like, and I remember I started YouTubing, and it was like 500 views of the live performance of Heilung in Castlefest.
That was everyone's gateway drug.
And and actually there was for me like, okay, I like this project. I actually didn't really knew what they were. And that was my first contact with Heilung without knowing that actually I'm going to end up where I am right now.
It's crazy how things work that way.
No, and the whole story is in Heilung, how it works is not that, oh, we are looking for a drummer or this or that. It is much more like, it is a family, it is a tribe of people. You have people that started making makeup and they ended up singing. You started warriors that ended up singing. I started as a driver, taking spears and shields and a lot of shit from Denmark to Glasgow. And that was kind of my first contact, because Alex Opaso, one of the other drummers, when I arrived to Denmark, was like, okay, I need work. Actually, there my wife was pregnant, and it was like, okay, what the heck should I do? I was already working in some jobs, not my side, that I never thought that I should do that. But work is work, no? And sometimes you have to start at one point to continue roll to figure out where's the path that you want to go. And in Valby, it's a neighborhood a little bit outside of Copenhagen, where I was living there. And then I hear that Latin band. And I was like, okay, I need to go to those guys, talk to them, I need a job. And one of the percussionists was Alex Opaso. 1 year I was literally like, I need work. 1 year later, he calls me, there's a band that I'm playing with, but they need to drive all the gear from here to the UK. Okay, what is it about? And then he's like, yeah, it's this project, Google it. And it was Heilung. He was playing in Heilung, and that was my second approach to actually what Heilung was. And I was like, okay, there's something going on here.
That's when it starts to get suspicious.
I was like, okay, this is interesting. I asked Sile, my daughter Nola was 3 months old. And I asked Sile, it was like, should I do this? Like, I have to drive fucking 24 hours.
With
with
shields and weapons.
No, for me, it's like, what do I have to drive with? It was like, yeah, spears, shields. And I was like, what? I was like, what are we talking about? Is this not a bad, what is it? Yeah. And I remember then Christopher Maria came with the White Walker, the old car of Kai. That was an experience, holy shit. But it was great, and I can talk until tomorrow. The driving, me alone there, I got stopped by the police. Do you have weapons? And they were already like this, holding. I was like, yes, but. And then one officer had a tick, so it was like, and they were doing like that, and then I started laughing. He was like, you look suspicious. And it was quite an experience, that trip. It was, wow.
Let me explain to you through song.
Yeah, kind of, it was quite, yeah. And then actually how I ended up, that was my first and last job as a driver. Because then in Glasgow, I think it was the first one. No, in London was the first one. There I started seeing a lot of things on stage that nobody was doing, that I normally do when I was playing with my band in Ecuador. Because there you don't have tour managers, you do everything yourself. So it was like, why is not the security, the cables, labels on things? And I just started doing it. And then Christopher calls me, And I was like, shit. I was just hired as a driver. What should I do now? And then he said, please do the same in Glasgow, and I need to talk to you in Copenhagen. I was like, okay, wow. Great. Until I realized that there was no chance for me to jump into the drums because he loved what I was doing.
Oh, no.
So I was like, each time I had a moment to talk to him, I was like, I don't do this. I'm a drummer. I want to drum. I remember at one point I was like, okay, that was it for me. After 2 or 3 years with Heilung, I was like, I don't want this anymore. Standing on the side, wanting to play, being there on the same stage and I'm not playing I had a rough period at one point.
Yep.
And then it happened that Alex couldn't come for Red Rocks.
Ah, okay.
So that was my first time without rehearsal. There you go, play the drums.
At Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Exactly. And they're, yeah. I don't know.
No pressure at all.
No kind of rehearsal. I rehearsed with Jakob a few things and I asked Alex some things. It was like, okay, great, wow, let's do it. And then, I don't know if some of you were there, but then the audio went off.
Yep.
And some spiritual thing was going on there that I was like, okay, this is cool. And then actually the feedback from the crowd was actually, wow. They thought we got some message that they thought that it was on purpose. Like, okay. And the comments were like, wow, that was amazing. We can hear the drums. And I was like, okay, this is
Hell on purpose.
So that's kind of a very long for here, but very short story on how I ended up actually with Heilung. And then it was this thing of, I'm not a Viking. Maybe I have some roots there, but that's the thing. A lot of people connects it a lot with the Viking side. Yes, there is a lot of inspiration, but there is also the Germanic side.
Yep.
That a lot of people don't really see. But for example, the warriors are painted because of a reason, representing the Ari warriors. So yeah, it's a lot of things that Heilung now, we just released, not released, but we performed now, we put one more song into the ceremony that is Tenet, that is actually, yeah, you know, from Sator Square, make a research on that, it's quite interesting. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah, and also you just had your last show of the tour, and you guys have been over here for a while, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
And yesterday, my one bombo just blew out the skin in the middle of the things. Literally, from one side of the frame to the other one, I had one cut. And I was like,
that's rough, man.
then it was like, okay, great, hang the other one. So I ended up hanging the one bombo that is quite heavy to have 1.5 hours hanging a thing. So then I decided to turn it around and play it softly from the other side, but then the tune changes because the skin is a little bit thinner. So yeah, it's a lot of things that a lot of people see just on what's happening on the stage. There's so many things behind that is actually happening to make this grow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard, but we love it. So it's in a good way, no? I'm doing this because of all of you. So seeing the reward of me sharing the energy of my drums and connecting and just banging the shit out of it and getting all and then seeing that actually people want to do the same, and I feel that that's important.
Yep.
That's amazing. So it's like, great, let's roll.
Yeah, man, you do it. I'm like, you guys, you particularly on the drums, you know, you do a lot of good for people. So just as appreciative of us as you, or of you are of us, we are of you. So, and I would actually love to use that as a segue. So I've talked to, you know, quite a few, I've talked to quite a few people in the different bands in this music scene. That just for the sake of ease, people call Viking music, but that's a whole other conversation. And there is like this common sentiment that like something is special about drums, right? And I know that you do work, you have a project that you're doing in Ecuador, the Vidaya And
Yes, Vidaya.
yeah, so you're doing this other thing on the side from Heilung that is also music is healing, especially percussion, spiritual healing. And then a huge part of Heilung's music and their mission also seems to be bringing people together and healing through music. So I wanted to hear your perspective on, especially as you now were fortunate enough to get thrown into the fray at Red Rocks, right? So you have this whole background on music is healing, and the drums are always tend to be a big part of that. What do the drums, or just percussion or rhythm in general, what do they mean for you when you say that music is healing, and what role do they play, especially as the drummer in pretty impactful band?
Appreciate the question.
Yep.
All of us have actually already a rhythm in us. We have a heartbeat that is a beat. It's constantly pumping. You are constantly in vibration, energies. That putting that very small in a parenthesis, but the drums, percussion in general has been with the voice the first things of expression that we had to do music or whatever, because we started clapping and you start grabbing sticks, and then it started a connection with drums, and there's much deeper the part of actually what the instrument is, because you have an animal, you have a tree that is giving something to create a drum. A drum has been always there for everything. It's been for battles, to the best party of the village, to the strongest healing. So I'm also learning. I don't heal. I just transmit what I can through my drums, and I try to share people that they can use the tools what music can give and do for yourself as a tool to figure out how to continue the path where you actually want to go. A way of transmission, of opening clarity on what you're doing. Vidaya started also the concept of opening the doors for people to use different tools to find that path, and not just through the drums. There we are putting everything together, nature, food, my own shamans that has been working together for years from Ecuador. They accepted to make this week of participating in this, we can call it now a retreat, where he serves plant medicine. Then Mama Belina, she's making a welcome to territory. I'm gonna make a circle with the drum also as a tool. So it's kind of, I call it the community, Vidaya Community, that everybody, all of you have a toolbox that you have been healing or fighting yourself through something. And the idea is that that toolbox, you share it with other people. My toolbox has been for now learning from nature and learning through my drums, trying to give it forward. And why I opened this space with my partner, actually we're working together on this, because we want to also learn in the path. As I said, each of you have also a toolbox. And it's again this thing of, are you learning something to keep it for yourself or to share it? But you are a living path of learning. And that's what I do with the drums. That's what I've been kind of seeing, that's what I do. My drum workshop that I'm actually doing tomorrow and after tomorrow in Ritual Crafts here in Denver. For me, finding the right word, I don't see it literally as a workshop, because it's more finding the blocks that you have to transmit through the drum that you have, or any instrument or whatever in life. I'm using my tool. You can come to that, I call it suruna, that's flow in Quechua. That you can use those tools in everything. That is basically finding the path on how to continue to give and learn at the same time. And that's what I feel that drums, getting a little bit back to what you were saying, drums has been always there. And we are in a constant beat. And what I feel that beat, what we are, So just imagine this thing that you are a human being and you go to another person to tell you how you are inside of yourself. That sounds already for me a little bit crazy. That you don't know about yourself. That we go to somebody that has studied how to fix ourselves, but he immediately, or she or whatever, provides a medical thing without asking you how much did you sleep, how much were you connected with nature, how are you eating, what are you eating. That for me is already, we have a temple, and that's the part that we have to figure out how to guide it. My guiding side has been through the drums, and I feel that that's been through traditions. Yesterday is the First Nations. We had a beautiful after ceremony. They came out with the drum and just started singing, and then he explained the same. This is what we do. We share our drums, we share our singing, and everybody should join to this. This is our path.
Yep.
I was.
I mean, like people are as always. It's people love the way that you guys open those shows with having First Nations people sort of like do whatever role they have, you know, given themselves for the opening of your guys' ceremony. It's very powerful, and the way that they like welcome you guys onto the stage.
Yeah.
And then you just sort of like take it from there.
It is a very, very important thing for us. And actually, I'm the person now that I took over on making the contact to First Nations in different places. So we were in Australia, we made a contact there with First Nations, but it's also, we have this thing that is like, who is these people to tell us, because they receive a lot of those things, people that just pretend to honor them, and then it's like, here you go, and they have this feeling, and me working directly with them, you can feel that there is this thing of barriers that you have kind of, as they said it in Australia, is that, yeah, the white people just come here to tell us that they are protecting us, but they are killing us, like when they close the event, kind of. So feeling that, and that's for us the most important, that we do as much as we can everywhere where we are, that they open the space for us because we are coming to their space, and then we put all their spirits, their ancestors, their massive chain of history together with what Heilung is doing, with all what we come. And then that's why when you see, when we do the circle for the opening, we hold hands all together and we rise as one. And that's a very symbolic and powerful thing, and it's just beautiful to see how also them, because it's been also risky for them. We have been also getting comments sometimes saying, who is this people from our nations dancing with them, like already. So yeah, it is.
It gets real complicated.
Yeah, it is. It is sad because again, it's like we are all trying to share the same, and it's just honor, respect to what is going on.
Yeah, just the reason that's always stood out to me, the way that you guys open the ritual when you guys play here, is that always sets the stage for me. That's something that does show like this is what could happen if, you know, we all sort of acknowledge that same elemental source that you're talking about. There's that powerful moment where like you all stand up together.
Yeah, and actually what we try to do now is that we are making it like a big ceremony. So we had in North Carolina people from there joining, and yesterday we had people from the territory here to kind of close this round that we're coming here, and I think it went pretty nice.
Yep.
It was, and it's also so nice to learn and sit down with them and just hear. Sometimes you hear they're very, very open. Sometimes they're like, okay, what is it? What is this weird thing? Some people, and we are very like, thank you. This is your space, not ours. So if you feel uncomfortable or something, no pressure. This is nothing. We are here to show honor to you, not because, come here and now we're gonna play. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's a very important part.
It is. That I think that's where we can land on it, right? So
Yeah,
it's at the very least, it's a very important and significant part.
Give acknowledge, and that's actually what we should do also, all of us, again, of giving a little bit of acknowledgement in everything what we do, and what we have, where it comes from, who is working behind. Now we got everything just like this, and we don't even know who made it, where it comes from, who worked behind. I'm just wearing this thing, but you don't know that kids are working behind it, for example. And it's just literally saying, okay, this one costs a little bit more, but it's one person that is working her ass off to make something actually clean for you.
Yep.
So giving acknowledgement to that is just a very important thing, I think. That's
Absolutely.
what I mean. Sometimes we start talking about one specific small thing, but that should be applied for everything.
Yep. And I feel like this is a good way to, round back to Heilung and your experience with them. Is, to me, Heilung is a Nordic band, but to me they've always seemed like, I always refer to them as a multinational band or a multicultural band, because Heilung doesn't just stick to one source, as you were talking about earlier, especially the Sator Square, that goes back to Rome. And so with Heilung having this pretty unique identity, to me at least, of this place where there's no one culture or no one heritage that sort of like is the dominant one and everything else is just like a supplement. I wanted to hear, like, as the drummer in such a project who is an Ecuadorian immigrant to Denmark, right? And then also the place that music and drumming has for you. What has that experience been like since your very first Red Rocks show, of finding, I would assume, a much larger platform for this sort of experience and this message that you have? Maybe a larger platform than you thought you would have as a member of Heilung.
Yeah, the thing is, it's been also, again, evolution of what I do and who I am in general. Now specifically into the drums. To be honest, the formula of drumming from Heilung has been also Juan Pino, one of also the drummers from Heilung. He was also at the beginning. He's Swiss Ecuadorian. Alex Opaso, he's Chilean. Jakob, he's the Danish person. So it's been always kind of the Scandinavian drummer and the South American drummer, and that's been until now. That is quite interesting, and just mentioning them, they're very present, and all the teachings and learnings that I have from them, they're very good friends of mine. But yeah, this thing what I mentioned before, I'm not Viking. I'm not, so this thing of using clothes that is not mine and wrapping my legs, that was like, no, that's not me. Starting from there, there is where I was like, okay, how do I put my things where I come from into a set that has been already kind of built? But again, Alex Opaso, he was already using an Ecuadorian bomb from the beginning, from the first day. So then I started just building this kind of weird setup that I have. I have 3 bombos, different sizes, different measurements, and then a lot of different things hanging around, bones. And
I love that you always have a shaker in your left hand, it feels like. Every time I look over you, you've just got some sort of shaker.
Shakers. What I'm doing now is working a lot with ceramics, whistles, and different findings from Ecuador. There's a very strong ceramic culture with whistles, and that's also a thing that I'm diving a lot in. I have just one, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a ceramic bird figure that I want to implement more. So this thing of implementing things from where I come from, Heilung has been always very open. That's what Heilung is.
Yeah.
We were 14 nationalities. We've been tours that we were 17 nationalities, and that's what Heilung is. That's why it is so rich, because everybody comes with something different. And for me, implementing this thing of where I come from, also wanting to put Ecuador on the map, saying this is where I'm from. Galapagos is not in Thailand; that's in Ecuador. But kind of just to share that sometimes it's like, they see it, the European, Scandinavian, Viking, blah, blah, blah. No, amigo, I'm from South America. So what's going on there?
I mean, it's not to the same degree, but when I'm walking around Boulder, I'll always overhear like some guy go like, "Hey, look, buddy, it's a Viking," and he'll like say that to his little kid pointing at me, and I'm like, "I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm not a Viking." So to a lesser degree than you, but like I deal with that all the time, right? But I always play along with the kids because makes them so happy. But
Yeah.
so I think this is a great segue into talking about your experience. Actually, I was asked to talk to you about your experience as an immigrant in Denmark from Ecuador, because not a lot of Americans think about Ecuadorian immigrants going to Europe, right? Because Americans are American-centric. We think everyone's going to America all the time. So if you could share this, if you could share this, your experience of being an Ecuadorian immigrant in Denmark.
The thing is, I felt that already my whole family has been an immigrant to Ecuador. So I actually grew up with always people from all over the world. For me, moving to Denmark, it's been challenging. It's been the first time that I felt like, wow, I left everything behind. I had everything in Ecuador, and then I literally left everything. It was like, okay, let's try something new. And the thing of landing there, working in, from cleaning toilets to building panels for exhibitions and things, really trying to figure out how to make a living, to send an application, 272 applications, job applications, and realizing that actually a paper, there are some places that they don't really care. They care about who you are as a person and your attitude to react to things. If I wouldn't, going to the Heilung, how I ended up there, if I would just be standing there when I do have to drive to Glasgow, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So if we are waiting that things are going to fall from the sky, wait until you die. That's a thing that we fall into a comfort zone. And we're like, yeah, I hate my job, I hate this thing, but yeah, one day I'm going to quit it.
This is such an important experience on a college or advice for while you're on a college campus, especially because it's very easy to fall into that rut.
We all fall. I say you should figure out what you're doing every day and do it different. Are you brushing your teeth every day with your left hand? Do it with your right hand. Literally. Yeah. So it is challenging. You start seeing like, wow, you literally start. I feel Heilung is one thing. I'm a drummer there, but I'm building a whole universe that is basically helping, supporting, sharing the tools of how to be what we were meant to be, humans. And we ourselves, we start being in a kind of a robot thing, automatic system that's like, okay, oh, I have to go this time, boom, 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 tuk, 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 tuk. And it's just like, are you actually living? Or are you waiting for your pension till you're going to be actually finally free? And then what? You're sick. So it's like, it's been hard. It's been insanely hard for me in Ecuador. But at the same time, I built it up the best that I could have in my life, that is my family. Family for me is always first. Even though at the beginning I put my family aside. That I felt, wow, that's actually very strong. Choosing music instead of family. And then realizing that that was not the right way. We are humans, again. We can fail, we can fall down. The important is how you wake up from down falling down and what did you learn and how you're going to make it the next time. It's been a lot of up and downs, and I think that's part of life. Imagine if nothing would happen, everything would be linear. And no. We need these things, but it's how do I learn from it? Everything in life happens for us, not to us. So it's all the perspective of where we're standing and what is our goal. So for me, it was a no-go. I have a big issue that when I see a vision, I don't see the steps in the middle. So Corona came, I love fermenting stuff. I opened a brewery, a kombucha brewery, that now is kind of standing there, but I opened it. And the same people from the food registration, they come to me and say, like, how the heck did you do that? Being a person who doesn't speak Danish and you have to, and it's organic, 100% organic. So it was like, you're crazy. Like, for me, there was not another possibility. That was the way to go. And I didn't see the work from others. So it's, I don't know. But at the same time, I recommend the thing of and I remind myself every day, being present at the moment, and build the pixels every day of the big image. Don't try to build the image. Yeah, I don't know. I went all over to Saturn there talking about shit. But
No,
yeah,
that resonated with a lot
but
of
it's
people.
like,
Yep.
for me, it was a focus. So it was very hard at the point in this thing of that I separated from my now partner 2 times. And imagine yourself, you're moving to 15,000 kilometers away. I don't know how much. A lot.
I'm not going to fact check.
A lot. From Ecuador to Scandinavia. And then suddenly you separate from your wife and the only thing that you have is a kid. Nothing else. Literally nothing else. Okay. What was the next option? You know. So then it's realizing what is the life that I want to do. Yeah, it can be challenging, but it's again how you see it. Enjoy the trip, as I always say.
But thanks for sharing that, man. I got one more question for you. That's sort of like mixing in what you talked about with Vidaya and what we talked about with immigrating to Denmark. Before I open up to questions for a little bit.
Yes, please. I hate blah blah blah. Talk about.
And that is so. It's interesting because when you have such a land-based ethic, right? You have where nature, the land that you are on, is so important to you. Now, I've never been to Ecuador and I've never been to Denmark, but I'm going to assume that they're very different landscape-wise. Yeah. So what is it like going from one place like Ecuador where you feel, you have this land-based ethic where you are very mindful of the land that you're on and how the nature that you're around influences you and how how it reflects you, and then moving to somewhere with a completely different environment, very different animals, plants, landscape. Like, what is that like being someone with such a central land-based ethic, like moving from one place to another where the wilderness and the nature is completely different?
Great question.
Yeah.
A lot of people see like, wow, he's already the drummer of Heilung and this, blah, 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 blah. I'm learning every day. And I learned that also there's a very famous sentence that you don't know what you have until you lost it. I knew Ecuador, how rich it was, but I actually never really enjoyed it until I left Ecuador. And that's very common to everyone. That we don't enjoy, we prefer to go to, I don't know, let's go to Disneyland instead of enjoying the most amazing park that you have in your neighborhood. I don't know, it's maybe a weird comparison, but it's, then I started realizing how much I actually wanted to do that before, to connect more with nature where I come from. But that said, it's not wrong. Now I'm actually building that and going back, and actually I'm going to go 1 week with my family to First Nations in the Amazonas and live there with them, basically with nothing and just with nature.
Yep.
Vidaya is basically that, giving the space to people to connect in a space there. So I'm trying to like make people realize there's also other things out there and you should come and join, because I did it, kind of. And then coming to Denmark, for me, is like I enjoy everywhere. For me, it's like Denmark, everybody has it so good up there that the biggest complaint is the weather, I think. Right? But I feel if it rains, it's amazing. If it snows, it's amazing. If it's ice, I break the ice. Let's go and swim in the ice. I cannot do that in Ecuador. It's like I really enjoy those things, and I appreciate. I miss the mountains though. I'm a person that grew up at 2,800 sea level high. I love to hike and things, and Denmark is quite flat.
What is the highest
300
top
meters.
is a hill called what?
Heaven's Mountain.
Heaven's Mountain. It's
They
like
call it a mountain.
350 feet.
It's a hill. It's
So yeah, but when I heard about that, it was like, okay.
smaller than Haystack Mountain.
And then the amazing thing is that all the rest of hills that you see is actually burials. That's like, I think it's just amazing. Such a rich cultural country. And I feel I think the planet Earth as much as you can connect. That's the thing. Connecting with nature is healing. You like it or not, we were not meant to be walking in concrete jungles. Just giving it for you. There is actually in Asia, some of the cultures, they have it. It is part of them. It's therapy. They have a therapy system that is connecting with nature. It's not a joke. We are nature, and we forget because of the society, and just, oh, we are stressed with this, or so many things, because you don't give space for yourself for what you need and what your body is actually asking for it. So yeah, for me, it's just I really enjoyed out there. I'm not such a big fan at all from Heilung in general. We never make 2 ceremonies in a row first, because it's exhausting, and we also need to recharge. Yep. And that's what we do. We always try to reconnect and get out. Sometimes it's quite difficult. Now we've been doing it amazingly. This tour, we tried a new thing, and we went to some abbey parks. So we made a bonfire, we put some food, we were all of us together, all the crew, being friends, family, talking about with some people of the crew that you actually don't see them because they come earlier in the morning to put the lights. So just sharing those experiences is just very nice, recharging.
Yeah, I mean, when I was told that you wanted to do something like this the day after your last show on your tour, I was like, "Are you sure? Did you hear him correctly?" Because that takes some fortitude.
Yeah, but I feel that it's actually again, I'm here for sharing,
yeah.
And I'm not banging the shit out of it, so I wouldn't do that, today. So yeah.
So I just really appreciate you. You know, you have got to be beat from a long tour and all these rituals, and we are all so thankful that you gave your time here.
No, it's amazing. That's what we are for.
Yeah, and then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I actually do have one little connection to your corner of the world.
Oh yeah?
My wife and I do have a parrot.
Oh yeah?
And their species is from Ecuador and Colombia in that area. And so when you're talking about appreciating Ecuadorian nature, I've got Ecuadorian nature like on my shoulder half the day. I was obligated to bring that up. So I just imagine like what it must be like to walk outside and see like a tree full of parrots. That's just like insane.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Ecuador, is so rich that where I come from, it is actually I was born in a city, but the city is like long, and I was living kind of on the outside. My backyard was kind of forest. It's not like what people feel that it's like we're living in trees and we don't have phones and things. That I also heard those kind of weird shit. But the crazy thing from Ecuador is that you have everything. You have the Amazonas, you have the highlands, you have the coast, and then you have Galapagos Island. So you have actually everything.
Yep.
And there you can actually you drive 2 hours and a half, and you feel that you're in the middle of the jungle. The retreat that we're doing, we're going to a balcony. It's called the colibri balcony, a hummingbird. So you actually put some sugar water in your hand, and the colibris come and sit in your hand to feed themselves. It's just amazing. Yeah, if you have seen in my Instagram, that's my hand feeding it. So it's just so, yeah, again, sometimes we don't know what we have because we are just, or sometimes even like this, so it's crazy. Give yourself the opportunity. Sometimes like, oh, that's insanely expensive, and then you go and spend the same shit in one night on Friday.
Last night, all of us feel targeted. Okay.
I do the same. So sometimes like, no, I shouldn't buy that T-shirt, and then I go and buy a drumstick that costs like I don't know how much because I want to support the work. And it's like, where are we there?
Yeah, so, right. All right, cool. Well, Nick, thank you so much for giving us your time here. It's been so wonderful listening to what you have to share with us.
Thank you, and thank you for all this arrangement. For me, it's been a pleasure, and this is the first time kind of doing it. Meanwhile, I'm on tour, and I will definitely come tired again and talk to people. Yeah, so thank for all of you, and I can talk a lot, but I would love to hear from you guys now. So yeah, I don't know how you.
So just before we get into questions, let's give Nick a hand here for. All right, so we've got about 30 minutes for questions. So raise your hand. I guess I'll monitor, proctor, whatever the word is. Anyone got any questions for Nick?
The shortest. answers as possible. Don't be shy, come on.
Yeah.
What other instruments do you play besides percussion and bagpipes?
The thing is, I actually started with a big range of instruments, but I didn't really dig into any of them. And I would say that drums is my stuff. Yeah, I love different percussion instruments and flutes. In general, like these whistles that I'm saying, ceramic whistles. But it's not that I'm a professional whistler. So yeah, I would say that I would stay within the drums. But I really enjoy it. All the different instruments. When I land to a new country that has some instruments and traditions, I'm always digging in and figuring out what it is and try to learn it and where it comes from. But let's keep it in the drums.
No, I actually have a follow-up to that. When you were playing in jazz in college, is that what you?
Yeah.
Did you have to play the marimba?
I had to, yeah, but I didn't really dig into that.
Okay, because I'm just sitting here thinking, because there's that Icelandic stone harp,
Oh, yes,
where it's like a
I've seen that.
marimba
It's
but with
beautiful.
stones, and I'm like envisioning you doing something with that. Maybe that would just be
Yeah.
kind of cool. But
No, actually, I saw that Kati Ran, I actually recorded some drums for her new album.
oh great, yes, yeah, I knew that.
And she actually made something with this person. I was like, wow, that could be cool. But I have enough things at home.
Yeah, good. I wish I was more responsible with not just crowding my apartment full of instruments.
I learned it. I learned it.
Especially when you're a percussionist. Those get big pretty fast.
No, hey, Jakob, you have to see that guy. Holy moly, he has a lot of drums. I have actually my drums at his place because I don't have space at my place.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
I was curious about the face paint that you had on last night and the inspiration for that.
Thank you for that. Actually, for me, this thing that I was saying before of cultural appropriation and things, and for me, it's been a whole journey to present something that I want to share with people on a way that I can also show it visual. That is inspired by the Wairuro seed. That is this one. This is the female one. You have the masculine one that is a little bit bigger. I have in my Instagram, there is a post that I actually talk 3 specific things. Represent for First Nations good luck. They put it also for kids that are just born, for protecting them from the barai, mal de ojo. That is when somebody's like,
Or evil eye.
yeah. There's a lot of big meanings, especially from the Amazonas culture. But I also want to represent the fight, blood, and fallen people defending their land. And the other one is the duality in life. That is not a way of separation, but it's a thing of need. That you need the other side to coexist, not saying that one is better than the other. In a very short way. That's kind of where the inspiration comes from. Specifically, all the colors also from the Wairuro seed, this one.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah, very appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm very bad in social media. I try to kind of share these kind of things. The Chacana cross, that's also a very strong symbol. The Wairuro. So I try to share a little bit of different things. So if you have Instagram, I wrote there some things. And for everyone, I'm happy if you have any other question or something more private for yourself that I could maybe answer. Happy to do that also.
Thank you so much for that information. I didn't even know I wanted to know was the paint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just so different from everybody else's, and it was so like bright, where everyone else was just very dark. And kind of muddy.
Yeah, for me, it started also like, actually the painting came from the first day. The first day I had that call that it was actually, I don't really remember how, but it just happened and I knew from where. And it was those three things that it was literally was like, how should I paint myself? I kind of knew. And then actually some of the warriors started painting themselves also as red. Yeah, I don't know. For me, is very strong representation, blood, pain, the Wairuro representing what the seed actually is, and this thing of duality. Yeah.
Awesome.
No, thank you.
All right, next question.
A little bit of a follow-up. Is there anything that the whole band or tribe does? Or is it all individual presentation of how you're interpreting things?
How everybody dresses up.
Yes.
Actually, the core, Heilung is actually Maria, Christopher, and Kai. The two persons with the antlers, and Christopher, when you see the stage to the left. They started with a concept, and then I just came in with my stuff. But I feel that when they started, it's like, okay, we have this. It's a good question, because I actually don't really know when they decided, okay, this is what we're gonna do. What I know that I heard from them directly was like, or they're gonna laugh at us, or this is gonna work. Because they went with all in. And the thing is, everything what they're using comes from findings, research, and different things from different traditions. Like I said, the warriors comes from the Ai, all these things that you cannot see comes from different shaman tribes that is basically using so you can see, but the bad spirit doesn't come into yourself. There's a lot of cultures, they use antlers. Yeah, Kai has a few interviews also in YouTube where he talks. He is the person that is a lot in touch more with that side. But from my side, again, for me was like, I am not from those things. I would do it. I have also some European side, but I didn't have to ask. That's the cool thing. It's like you get a new person to the tribe and they accept it how it is. Yeah, but I'm gonna follow up that one. I like it. I would actually like to know also how they sit down. Okay, you're gonna use this. You're gonna look like this, because I feel that it was not really that much like that. Yeah, and it's evolving. A lot of people think like, oh, they're just partying like crazy in the buses, whatever. Some of them they're sewing the dresses. You see them waving the belts and things, and all of what you see that they're wearing is made by themselves. We make ourselves, yeah. That's why I don't use so much. I don't do that.
You and that, yeah?
Yeah, I think to kind of build on these questions, just I'm wondering about the spiritual dimension of what you're doing as a band, what you're doing in these ceremonies. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you're all tuned in with? Is it just those three who are kind of holding that and you all have different parts, or is there a sense of coherence that you're all what are you doing as a ceremony, I guess? What is the ceremonial part? Are you connecting with certain spirits? How would you, and how were you even told that when you first came in? And what do you also understand now, having done it for a long time, and what is true for you in that?
Thank you for the question. Okay, in a composition-wise, what Heilung does, it is much the three of them what they do it. But then, for example, when I recorded the last album, there was an idea. Christopher went to the studio, then we drummed our shit out of it. And then it comes the complete song. Usually Kai goes to his own retreats, he connects with spirit, he brings the lyric, then Christopher Maria is like, okay, what the heck should I do with them? But kind of like, okay, what should I do with these words? That's what I have heard from them, because we're not part of the composition, but we put also our thing when we're playing live in the musical wise. In the spiritual connection, Kai is kind of the head spiritual leader from the project, and you have different levels of spirituality. Some of them they dig a lot in, some of them they use it just when they are with Heilung, some of them they feel it much more. Some of us, we practice it constantly, but what he does is basically opening the space so we can come and honor the space, and he connects and asks permission to the spirits of the space, but then he connects also with the spirits from the territory in Europe. And that's why he smudges to clean everything in the space, and then he smudges us, and then we close also the space. It is a little bit difficult because we still, that's the part of this thing that it's, for us it would be amazing, just do it in the forest, and that's what it is. I actually don't like stages. So me being here, I prefer to sit there, you know. We are all the same thing, and for us is that body turn up into become this massive thing. But now we are on stages, and of course we still have the click. That's what I said before. For me, the most difficult part is like I'm connecting. I'm already like tripping in my thing. It's like, oh shit, come back. You gotta keep it. I'm banging bloat, the big drum in the center, and sometimes I have to look to the floor and kind of I anchor myself against like, okay, don't go too much into the vibration because you see the drum like. If you focus just to that, meanwhile you're hitting it with all the thing, there is insanely energies, spirits going into that. So it's very, I feel that it's one communal thing, but it's everything in different levels. For example, I have my own ceremony myself before going into the stage. So I hope I get it. It is a little bit tricky, but it's like, yes, sometimes we have off days. Some of us, we get together and we make our own ceremony to reconnect. And sometimes it's all the warriors together. Sometimes it's just, small groups. So it's different levels of spirituality, I would say, and different methods and different cultures. And some of us, we practice it to others. And we open the space. Some of them, we just enjoy it. You know? So I hope I could answer it. It's good. It's a little bit.
It's kind of a double-edged sword being the musician in the band that people use to like enter a trance state or to just like space out to, because you guys are not allowed to go the full trance.
The thing is, as Christopher says sometimes, is like, do it, but until the edge. Don't lose it completely, because that's what Heilung also is.
Yep.
That yes, you see me a lot of times turning around. Sometimes I'm like, wow, I'm just chop. Let them dance over there. I'm just like.
Yeah, if you get high off your own supply, you're gonna get lost in that song.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like I don't have the feeling of doing it. So it's also a big calling. There's some things that we actually practice it, because if not, it would be a mess. Because we are so many on stage, and it can also get dangerous. We have real spears on stage, so
It's always a danger.
Yeah.
So, do we have time for one more? Couple more? I'll field another question while Matthias checks the clock. One more? All right, cool.
I feel like cheating, but I have one if there's time. If someone else wants to go for it.
I guess I have more commentary. I think for myself, having found them a couple years ago, and in general, what I think really just sets Heilung apart is that you guys truly are encompassing what everyone is trying to do, which is the cultural appreciation and the sharing of the cultures, and like the coming together of cultures and recognizing that yes, even if some of our specific traditions are a little different, we're still reaching that same source. We're still doing this, and rather than saying you can't do this thing, it's well, this is how I incorporate what I do here. And I think that also for I would say most of us in the States who are didn't consent to being born here and came here via assimilated, the reason so many people are grasping at Heilung is because it is connecting back to a culture that we have lost, and you can feel it, and it comes from the drum, it comes from the beat, and that's why there's such a plethora of people, because we're on land that isn't our own. we have lost culture and traditions that for centuries. And that's what I find so beautiful about it. And knowing too that, yeah, it's Germanic, it's, you know, Central American, it's all these things, and it's before we started making boundaries. And that's why so many of us are like, this is what I'm looking for, and sometimes unintentionally that's where that appropriation comes in, because we're grasping for straws of what we've lost. And that's what I think I truly appreciate and love about what is happening. You know, the fact that I'm a huge ally with First Nations, and just like literally crying, seeing that like this is how you do it. You do come to someone's land and say, hey, can we have permission to take up your space and utilize your space and, you know, commune with your spirits here. And I just find that's absolutely beautiful.
Wow, appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's a very important thing what you're saying. Yeah, it's very important for us. And now as I said before, for me, I'm the person making the direct contact that we actually do this as much as we can everywhere that we know that everywhere is First Nations, you know, but you have, for example, if we start doing that in Europe, in some places, actual Heilung is taking the roots of that, but each time we're traveling out, that's what we do. That's for me in Australia, it was rough to get someone, because it was I said myself, I'm not touching my drums if I don't have a First Nation opening this space. And it ended up 2 hours before I got a couple. I talked even to I think it was Prime Minister, something like that. I just contacts everywhere that I said, I need a person. So yeah, thank you for that. That there's people that actually appreciates and sees that there's an effort of just pulling things, roots back. Mm-hmm. We all come from the same.
Yeah, I like that you touched on what I've at least found from working in this area for a while, is that a lot of people have it, at the very least, even though we're coming at it from a lot of different angles. A lot of like Euro-descended people in America are just like, and elsewhere of course, but I'm just speaking from our perspective, right? Is like, we're reaching for something old, but we don't know what it is that we're reaching for, and it's just sort of like, especially through music, it's just like this open space of total like imagination, and where everyone sort of like comes together and imagines something through a song or something, where it's our way of trying to reach for something old, even though we don't know what it is we're reaching for. This is also why, just colloquially, while I find a lot of people just get really into Vikings, because they found that one old thing they want to reach for, because, you know, the shows and everything make them look so badass, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just, I feel like it's a lot of that common thing of, we all had that common feeling that something was lost. We just don't know exactly what it was.
Yeah, but it's also a thing that I see right now, that is all this Viking thing that is coming all over. Would it be funny to see like Maya's group doing the same? Mm-hmm. I have some friends that they actually work on that, and they are not popular. There is a massive thing going on with this Viking thing, and I have 0.001% I'm Viking. Wow, it's like great, but where are you? Keep it in yourself. So it is a interesting thing. It's very interesting what is going on now. I see it. I try to see all the positive things that is actually we are trying to reconnect with ourselves, and that's a huge thing.
Like, how do you honor and respect those ancient roots without just grabbing and taking? You know, like that's really what I think it does boil down to, because you can get into a lot of that with First Nations and pretendians, and you know, oh well, I have this, but they're not realizing that, you know, you're not grabbing this. If you really want to truly connect to that ancient, you know, DNA of yours, there's a way to do it, and a way to respectfully do it. And you know, even within my own path of kind of reconnecting my own way, there's things that I'm learning all the time, and that's what the biggest thing is when we really start realizing that difference between appropriation and appreciation, and honoring and respecting it. And again, like I think that's just what Heilung really is, and knowing, you know, like, you know, that many of the drummers are not heavily Euro descended, just kind of proves that, like, we're just coming here to reconnect and heal.
Exactly.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
We
could yak for hours.
What a great note to end on, yeah? All right, cool. Nick, again, thank you so much, man. It's been so great having you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for someone would have